Hey guys, Hailey Lain, aka Key Black here. I wanted to do a follow-up video after that incredible premiere of Behind the Curtain, talking a little bit about the project. First off though, I want to thank everybody who was there at the premiere and everybody who's watching the video now. The whole team put in an incredible amount of work over the course of 2.5 years of production, and the final product was just amazing. Again, thank you guys for enjoying it. Thank you so much to the team who put such love and dedication into this project. It really shows. I guess I should talk a little bit about where the project idea came from. Those of you guys who've been following me for a long time may remember that back when Bendy and the Ink Machine was still coming out chapter by chapter, I was over on tumblr.com drawing a lot of fan art for it. First off, I was just enamored with the premise of the game just from chapter 1. I was like, it's about an animator and I'm an animator. I was already interested in the topic, but the idea of a horror game based on the drama that must have happened to make a studio fall from greatness to a complete shambles, and then the personal relationship of a main character who came back after 30 years to find that his creation came to life and wanted revenge. I was hooked immediately. So I was drawing a ton of fan art, back from the very get-go. I did a whole bunch of animations. You actually probably saw several of them become viral GIFs at the time. But as the chapters went on, where the story was going was not quite in line with what I had expected out of it, and it wasn't really answering the kind of questions that I was interested in answering. So I ended up doing what pretty much every fan of something ever does, and I made a whole bunch of AUs, one of them being what was eventually called the Toon Henry AU. And if you guys don't know what an AU is, it is an alternate universe, basically taking the premise of something and making its own story out of it. And the Toon Henry AU is mostly sparked by this anonymous ask I got on Tumblr. I think they asked something like, what do you think Henry would look like if he was turned into a cartoon? And I'm like, well, what would he look like? What would he be like? First off, who is Henry? You know, Henry Stein in Bendy and the Ink Machine is he's an open-ended character. You know, he doesn't have a whole lot of dialogue, not quite a silent protagonist, but you don't really know anything about him outside of the fact that he used to work there 30 years ago. And bear in mind, I'm doing all this stuff back when we have maybe 2 chapters out, tops. And so I was already coming up with a whole bunch of ideas well, okay, so he left his studio 30 years ago. Why? What, was there a falling out? Why did it take him 30 years to come back? Did he get drafted into the army during that time? That's probable. Okay, so let's work that into this kind of character. And so I ended up coming up with the character Henry Ross, this grizzled, grumpy old army veteran who came back to his studio only to find that his estranged son, basically, is really pissed off and wants revenge on his dad who left for milk 30 years ago and never came back home. So that's basically the main premise that I started playing with in the Toon Henry AU. Those of you guys who've been following me for that long, you probably recognize a lot of references to the comics that I did over the course of several years with that AU in Behind the Curtain. In fact, I'm kicking myself now. I should have worked the mallet in there somewhere. That was a huge thing. But, you know, as the game started wrapping up and it was very, very clear that it wasn't really going to focus on the questions that it had raised in Chapter 1, my interest in the game kind of waned. I wasn't as enraptured with where the story ended up going by the end of Chapter 5. Don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed them. I had a whole lot of fun playing them. You guys probably even remember me losing my mind on the streams at the time. But you know, after sitting on it some, my enthusiasm kind of went, okay, that was fun, but I'm really more interested in the story that went untold, and since it didn't really go in that direction, my interest in the franchise kind of went on to other things. Until Jess, my co-director for Behind the Curtain, came along and was like, well, we're doing a drawing stream together, and she asked me, Hailey, why don't you try drawing Bendy? It's been a while. And I'm like, I don't really wanna, but I drew him, and I had a lot of fun doing it. I was like, okay, I kind of miss this guy. And then later on, she asked me, well, why don't you finish up that story that you started in Welcome Home? Because Welcome Home was also based on that Toon Henry AU concept. It wasn't really based on the content of Bendy and the Ink Machine, the game. There are a couple references, direct references to the game in that video, because at the time it was very much a kind of an homage to what I thought the story was going to be doing. As soon as she brought that up, my interest was sparked all over again, and we were like, you know what, yeah, we're gonna make this project happen. Within 48 hours, I sent her a draft of a song, and things just kind of took off from there. So This production was just an incredible experience, kind of revisiting the ideas that had been stewing around in my head since before the game even came to its conclusion, like way early on, and then working with Jess, who is a historian who also specializes in animation history, who knows all the context from the rivalry between Walt Disney and Max Fleischer, and could bring those elements into the story and to develop it into a properly, fully fledged story. It was amazing. By the way, I do highly recommend checking out the article that she just posted on her Substack. Jess has just posted an article talking about the relationship between Walt Disney and Max Fleischer and how that relates specifically to the development of the story for Behind the Curtain. If you guys want to see some more insight into that, highly recommend checking it out at KaleiWorks.substack.com. I'll put a link in the description as well, just so you guys have that as a reference. But yeah, I should probably cut this off before it goes on too long, but there's so much more I want to talk about in later videos. I hope you guys liked it. If you guys have any questions whatsoever about, like, the production of Behind the Curtain or any other projects that I've worked on, please go ahead and leave them in the comments. Let me know what you think. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks!